Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ResearchWorks podcast here at the EACD and the IAACD in Heidelberg 2025. A bit of a mouthful, actually. Surprised I got that out. But we have a returning guest from the first time we came to EACD when he was still doing his PhD. He's now on the other side and he feels like the weight of the world is now off his shoulders. Welcome back to the pod, Dr. Jorn Ockerman.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana.
I got really nervous there. I had a moment there.
No,
Welcome back.
Great. Yep.
So great to have you here. Congratulations on finishing your PhD.
Thanks. Yep.
Where are you working now? Where did the PhD lead you to? You were Ghent University before?
Yeah. And so my project I was completed, and then I got a position as it sounds great on LinkedIn. It's a communication and valorization manager. So it basically means I get to work with the research group, Caring Connection. I'm still pretty new. From the Karel de Grote Hogeschool, which is a university college, I think is a correct term in English, over at Belgium. And so I oversee the group's different projects and how we can put them in the media, how we can put them back into clinical practice. And I'm building an ecosystem to develop technology for children in their first 1,000 days and up until 6 years. So it's all very fresh. So if people are interested in joining an ecosystem, they can find me on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. Yeah, that was great. Wow. Well, congratulations on that. And I think it's beautiful given what you did for your PhD in a bit of a nutshell. And it's always really funny, isn't it? You do a PhD for many years and you get someone like me that asks you, in a nutshell, what do you feel like your PhD contributed to the overall knowledge base?
I think it shows the value of co-created products and how if we involve patients, if we involve a clear clinician-focused design goal into a product, then it can really help.
Yeah,
I think that's the main thing to show that if people can collaborate, and there is collaboration possibility between clinicians and industry, even between engineers and physiotherapists. We don't speak the same language, so I think my role was the translator between both.
Yeah.
But having been able to do that and make a product that now works, is suited to use in clinical practice. I didn't make it, I just improved on it. But I think that's the main insight, plus also the fact that there wasn't any information on how are Belgian or Flemish physiotherapists using technology or measuring devices. And so now during the project, we did a questionnaire. Now we have it.
Yeah.
So I think that's valuable for policymakers in Belgium specifically as well.
Yeah.
And to know where the barriers are for implementing technology, because the road is still quite long, I fear, for technology use in physiotherapy.
Yeah. Can you go through some of those barriers? Not that I want to talk about the barriers, but sometimes it's worthwhile knowing, because there are some common threads. I know yours is very specific for your population and where you're from, but there are some common threads when it comes to barriers, isn't there?
I think for technology was finance, and the reimbursement system. So that's very specific to Belgium, but just in general. And I also noticed that just a lack of, and I say this with all kindness, but the lack of knowledge that therapists themselves reported and said, look, we don't really know about technology. There's so much we don't really get it, or we didn't get it in our education. Whereas right now there's a lot of initiatives that there's classes on neurology that offer specific technology-based courses.
Sure.
I think there's the U Hasselt even offers a whole course on just using technology as a clinical practitioner. So it's improving, and I think the next generation of physiotherapists will probably have more ease in using technology. But I fear that the lack of knowledge, the people feel they don't have the skill as well, and the lack of finance. Those were the main three ones that are, I think, universal. And
I think so too, because as you're saying that, because that's the challenge, right? So there is this rise of great technology around. We hear them being adopted left, right, and center. And we need to be in line with that kind of now, because that's only going to continue to advance. So if we don't kind of catch the wave, the efficiencies that technology can bring. Also expectations, because children are growing up with technology, and there is that disparity between the old folk and the young ones who are so comfortable and they're almost expecting it to be there.
And also the expectancy of physiotherapists who, if they want to use a new piece of tech, they kind of expect it to solve everything all at once. So if I buy something new, it has to be able to do A, B, C, and D. So catering to the expectations of both clinicians, children, but also the people working in industry that are trying to make a viable company. And it's sometimes difficult to explain to them, look, medicine is sometimes, big pharma, but sometimes medicine for profit can be a little bit difficult depending on the country's reimbursement system. And I think altering expectations in different groups is key to it, especially since children are used to technology. So, we'll need it. It even for people that are studying. So the Gen, I don't know what generation are we in, the Gen X that is now studying physiotherapy. They've grown up with technology, and we can't offer them an education where technology is just not a factor.
That's true.
Go back in time when they become a physiotherapist.
That's so true, isn't it? That's not what you want to have happen. You want to keep moving forward. Interesting. And that does really lead to your work, because you really looked at, I love the title, putting the fun in functional testing and gamification. Gamification is a big word as well. We love talking about it. Can you maybe define what that is?
I think the definition that I often use is using game elements in a non-game context. I think that's the safest one to use. But the problem is that it in research, it can also immediately mean active video games, virtual reality. So the definitions are all a bit muddied. But I think gamification just in general just means using game elements in a non-gaming context. I think it's something that in pediatric physiotherapy people already do, because you're making your exercises fun and playful. So I always tell colleagues of mine, you're already doing gamification. It's just once you look behind the curtain and know what elements you can add, it's like opening a box of tools. Like, you knew you had four hammers and two nails. But if you go a little bit deeper into the gamification lingo, you can find that there's also screwdrivers, and then there's an electric thing that does a buzzsaw. You can find a lot more tools just because you're thinking about it. You're looking into it instead of just doing the same thing you're doing, because you know you can make it playful, but it's if you use elements, it's a lot of... I love
that. And so that's what you looked at for functional testing.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that. What did that look like?
Well, we just wanted to see in our research, because we didn't find any information on, what is the effect of game elements on digital functional testing? So what we did, since my PhD was on postural control, is we took 2 digital tests and we kept the digital aspect of it, but we removed any interactive elements. So any audiovisual cueing, any sound, any instructional things, onboarding, anything that was not done by a person, done by a person, we removed. And so we had a blind, boring digital assessment and one where game elements were introduced. And then we just checked what were the results in children with DCD, but also patients, I think adults with stroke is hemiplegic stroke.
Wow.
And we found that it depends really on patients and on the specific task we use. So in one test, we saw a significant increase in performance. On the other test, we didn't. So and it really depended also if we asked them afterwards, what did you think about the gamification elements? Some children said, I liked it better without them because it was more challenging to me, because it felt it was more challenging to not know what I was doing. Whereas if we asked it to the adults, they said without game elements was easier because it was just relaxed. I didn't have to get all the visual cues. I don't have to get all the sensitive stimuli,
all the sensory information processing. Sensory information.
That was the one I was looking for.
That's okay.
But so
I only speak one language, so it's easier for me.
Sometimes I was going to the English mindset. But,
I appreciate that. It's really interesting that you said that, because as you were talking about it, I was thinking about my conversation with Els Ortvis, and her recommendation is any child really with developmental condition, we should be doing vision assessment with them because you often don't know what the extent of their vision might be.
Yeah.
And you might meet a child who's 10 or 15 and then they've been adapting all that time because it's developmental. They don't know what they don't have.
Nope.
So bringing these assessments, it would be very interesting. For some children, it would be fantastic that highlights things they can see. For other children, it's sensory overload.
Yeah.
And, we would love to have a sweeping statement and go, gamification is perfect for everyone. But it's another thing in the toolbox to consider for the right circumstance, isn't it?
I think that's a problem. Gamification is perfect for everyone, but you have to tailor it to everyone specifically. I don't mean that you... Okay, maybe not everyone. Indeed. Maybe sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming, but I do believe that by adding the right elements for the people that are... Maybe if the people that are overwhelmed by audiovisual cueing, maybe by introducing a narrative right before they do the task.
Yeah.
So it doesn't add anything audiovisually, but it embeds it in a context that they find more comfortable or that they find more engaging. It's also gamification and could also help without overstimulating them. Or just, I don't know, putting a score up somewhere written down, not even digitally, and saying, look, this is the time you have to beat.
Yeah, okay.
That's also gamification.
Sure, okay.
And it doesn't add any stimuli. So that's the idea that you could tailor it.
Okay. So then it means that we can be very specific for each person, which might make a pre and a post test a bit more reliable.
Yeah.
Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah. But the problem is also that making it specific to a person can ruin the standardization of testing. And that is the big catch-22 that I have with... I like the idea of being able to gamify tests.
Yeah.
I think I like the idea more of getting test results from people playing, for instance, exer games and getting the measurements out of the results that they obtain by playing the exer game. So, for instance, you put biomarkers during just playing a game. I think it's more natural movement. I think you get more information from it than if we make it standardized. But if you start standardizing it and then adding game elements that are specific to every individual, it becomes a very difficult question on, is it still a standardized test if your test performance is completely different from... test experience is completely different from mine. But if we do the same motor task, it's a very difficult riddle to solve.
I love how there's you ask a question and you've just opened a whole lot of cans of worms.
Yeah. I really wanted to look into the gamification elements during motor testing, but I was expecting, since there wasn't anything on it that I found.
Yeah.
I was
beginning.
Very happy that it could be a whole new field of study, but it's also very difficult because one of the jurors from my PhD asked, okay, but what is the cognitive load or what is the effect of cognitive load on the use of gamification elements? And there's already a lot known about, for instance, in elderly, if you want them to use apps, having contrasting colors or the size of fonts. But if you have someone who suffered a stroke, how do they perceive an app? We had participants who were able to fill in a test of 16 questions, and some of them filled it in completely, some of them filled in about half, and then they just defaulted to the score. So you notice that at some point they just gave up scoring it soundly. Which was very interesting to see. Okay, on paper, their cognitive level, we didn't really assess it, but on paper, their cognitive level seemed appropriate for the test we required them to do. But there's a lot of differences between the different participants.
Sure.
And we saw those differences reflected in how they perceived gamification elements as well. So, I think even in typically developing children or just in the general population, I enjoy games because I like playing with mechanics. Some people like games because they love beating other players. I don't enjoy being extremely competitive. It's not how I play games, but people who do I don't know, sports, for instance.
Yeah,
like
they're
athletes.
wired differently, aren't they?
They're completely
I'm gonna beat you.
different. Yeah, there we go. And that's we have those inherent differences. If you add in cognitive differences,
Yes.
neurodevelopmental differences, it's a whole soup which I'd love to one day discern. But
It's a great way to encourage all of us to start thinking about it. And your work is certainly pushing the field forward there. If I were to say to you, with everything that you have learnt so far, and given that the future is also here right now, what would be your main recommendation for physios, clinicians looking at the role of either gamification or technology? What would you say?
Use it. Like
Use it.
The tip I always give at conferences is play games. I remember a talk last year where they used Minecraft, and it's great, but I think a lot of people in the room have never even played Minecraft for 5 to 10 minutes. I think once
They're all under 15 at the moment, aren't they? Maybe under 10, possibly, yes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If the therapists have no idea what gaming is, I think the problem there is that a lot of therapists only hear the negative aspects of gaming, the addiction factor, which is a very important thing that I also am cautious of.
Yeah.
But it's the violence, it's the addictive nature, whereas the indie scene has so many different elements that maybe you could use.
Not all bad.
No, it's in fact, it's actually, I think the reverse. There are art games.
Yeah.
So I think
using Mario Kart. Come on. Yeah.
It's playing games and using technology and just try it. I think that the main tip, if you really want to try out technology in your practice, is buy a Makey. It costs about, I think, 40, 50 euros, dollars, depending on your local currency. And it's a prototyping tool where you can make anything that conducts electricity into an interactive button that you can then play. Just it changes, or it substitutes keys on your keyboard. So, for instance, if you have a game that just uses spacebar, and there's a lot of games that just use one button, well, you can make a plasticine button, or you can take some tinfoil and you can make a button that you can put anywhere in your practice. You can put it on a wall, so kids have to reach up. If you use Makey to just try it out, you can see how easy it is to learn to work with technology. And you don't need any programming, you don't need anything. You just plug it into your laptop, connect it to the electric conducive material, and you have an interactive game element in your practice that you can use to maybe do some active video gaming in brackets.
Okay.
But it's, so Makey is a really good first step in people wanting to try out technology.
That's wonderful. I love that advice. And, we've lived by that too. We purposely have game days in our practice, and we all play and we all have a go. And you just have to do it without feeling silly, because I think sometimes technology sounds scary and you just want someone else to do it for you. But the more you do it, like with anything, the more comfortable you get, isn't it? You're like, it's not too complicated. Actually, you just got to plug it in.
I
love that advice. I love the work that you've done. Thank you so much for coming back, and congratulations on your PhD.
Thank you very much.
All right, to all of our listeners, I hope you really enjoyed that. Take a look at Makey and have a go and use it. We'll talk to you all again really soon, though. Here back for so much more at the conference. Bye.